Hello, everybody, and welcome to Simply Technical. Back here again with another episode, another podcast. I believe it's episode 30 is what I titled it, so hopefully I'm not off, which means we've done 30 episodes since we restarted here in 2023. So we're outpacing what we've done before.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. Appreciate all the love and support. Hopefully the titles aren't too clickbaity. But we're going to talk about vacations. Keaton and I have both been on, very blessed to have been on multiple vacations, one with our families and even post since moving out a few. And so we're going to talk about kind of like our top fives to do before you're 30 years old. So if you're 29, hopefully you've been to several of these. A lot of people haven't even been outside their home state or, out of the neighboring states. So you need to get out there and experience some more other cultures, even within the United States. And something that Keaton and I both have experienced a lot of is Europe. And not a lot of people have been to Europe. Keaton, why don't you describe, you've taken a couple of trips to Europe. Why don't you describe like your first or your favorite one, I guess?
My first one was a summer study abroad program with OC, so our college. And we were like based out of Vienna, and I think it was 6 weeks long. So it was a shorter trip, and I stayed a couple more weeks. So I was there for 8 total weeks. But from there, your home base is in Vienna, but you can travel around on the weekends because Europe is so connected. It's super easy to get around. You have the Eurail pass. You can be in, you can go to Germany, you can go to Switzerland, you can go to France, Spain if you're feeling a little bit ambitious for a long overnight train. But that was really good. But that's what got me into wanting to go back. When you really actually see how cheap it can be to take a European vacation, you realize, okay, if I can get there, if I can fly there, then I can have an incredible experience for cheaper than would be a Disney trip in the U.S. So, then I'd say my favorite trip. So outside of that, we did a recent one to Italy and back to Vienna because I wanted to show Lydia Vienna since she hadn't been before. So that was our most recent one. And then for our honeymoon, we did Greece. So we went to Athens and Santorini for the honeymoon. And it's hard to pick which one was my favorite because they're all so different and they have lots of pros to each city that I can't really replace. That's what makes Europe so unique. Yes, in the U.S. you have different cities have different, vibes. I can't think of a
culture, just different cultures.
Yeah, different culture. But when you get to Europe, it's really different cultures between cities. So it's a lot of fun to get to experience that extreme array, especially when you're from Oklahoma City and you haven't really been many other places. It's shocking, but in a great way. So before I go deeper on any of those places, you want to tell about your...
Yeah. So what got me into Europe was, I think I was a sophomore or freshman in high school, and some friends from church, a couple of ladies and their parents, they were all graduating high school together, and they went to Europe for a couple weeks. And so I got to hear about that when they came back. And then the next year after that, some of my best friends growing up, their family did study abroad. And they went there and they come back and they tell me about how awesome it is. I'm like, well, okay, well, I need to go. And, being, the spoiled kid that I am, my parents what do you want for your senior? You want to go on a senior trip? What do you want for your senior present? And I said, let's go to Europe, together as a family. So we went for 3 weeks and we traveled all over Europe. We stayed in Paris and Rome for 2 nights. And other than that, we stayed in places for, less than 24 hours. So we we visited a lot of places. And pre-recording, we were talking about how it's more commonplace now for people to just go and experience cities. Okay, well, I want to go to Rome and I want to spend a week there and see what it's all about. Us, it was, we're going to hit the highlights. We're going to hit the tourist attractions, and we're going to hit the Colosseum and the Forum and go see some castles in Germany and, not spend a ton of time in places, but see just the main things. So we didn't experience the cities, as much as you would if you were on an 8-week trip, or if you spent a week or 2 weeks in Italy specifically, then we didn't experience as much of that, but we got to see all the highlights, you would say.
Yeah.
And
I
so
think
I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed that because like the coolest thing about a European trip is you spend all this time studying history in high school, and like some of the great, like the cool, like Rome was awesome for me going. And I had a 7th grade European class, or not Europe, just world history, but we talked a lot about the battles and the Roman Empire quite a bit, and seeing those things in real life of like, oh, I've seen them, they put pictures on their slideshows and presentations, and then you go and you experience like, this is so awesome, like this feels surreal. So that's what I
yes.
really liked about Italy specifically in Rome.
Yeah, no, Europe has a real history. I mean, the US is like a baby compared to what's over there, and it's crazy. Because I mean, I guess we're both kind of history nerds. I'm not the most well versed on history, but everyone knows Rome and everyone knows
Caesar, this is where we think
Greece.
Caesar was
And
stabbed, and
yeah,
yeah, the Spartans, with Greece and the Athenians, and the world famous marathon.
yes. I mean, the beginning of the Olympics. Like, there's so much, and then I mean, there's more, even more to like if you go to London, you see all of um, the monarchy stuff, which is cool. I mean, of course, it's a debate on whether or not it's cool. And I thought it was cool. It's really cool to see some kind of tradition still alive, and then also to just see all the history of it, which is fascinating. Yeah, I guess there's definitely the two different vibes, the two different types of vacations to Europe. It's like knocking everything out quickly or taking it slow, city by city. And I think both have, uh,
Both have merit.
yes, definitely. I mean, it's not an easy thing to take a European vacation. I think it's a lot cheaper than people, or I know it's a lot cheaper than people believe it is. I think most people think it's like, oh my gosh, it's like the most luxurious thing you could possibly do. But if you can get your flights free or cheaper through points, which is not that hard, I think we have an old podcast on that. I think,
Yeah.
Yeah, go listen to that because I mean, I still follow the exact same philosophy and mostly fly for free or for very cheap. And when you get over that, everything in Europe is so cheap. Outside of Switzerland, and I guess the UK is kind of expensive. Everywhere else is just dirt cheap compared to a big American city. And so you can do a lot. And another thing is you don't have to spend a lot of money to do cool things. Like you see the Eiffel Tower. You see the Eiffel Tower. It's right there. It's free to see it. So you go see the Coliseum. It's right there. You can pay for a tour to go inside. Which is not that expensive. But I mean, like whenever I was in college, I was playing
Broke.
like super cheap. I was completely broken, and we were said we're gonna do everything. We're gonna see all this stuff. We don't need to go do the tours. We don't need to pay for all this extra stuff. Just see it, and that's awesome. We can say we saw it.
Like, and even if you do pay for it, like say you pay for the Louvre, like you're in Paris and you go to the Louvre, like it's not all that expensive, and you can spend
No.
all day there.
Yes, exactly.
Like that's a whole day. Like you can spend a whole day and you won't see everything. Same with the Catholic Vatican. The Vatican.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you can pay to go in there, and it's not terribly expensive. Like I'm sure it's cheaper than a ticket to Disney.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
I don't know how much a ticket to Disney is now, but
Very expensive.
I'm sure it's like $15-$20 a person to get into the
Yeah.
Vatican. And like I said, they have so much art. Like you could spend all day there. You go to St. Peter's Basilica, that's free.
Yep.
Like some cathedrals. Go see the Notre Dame, I guess. Like there's tons of things to just see for free. They have a bunch of plazas, and now there are things that like you said you pay. What was really cool, we had a travel agent here in Oklahoma that had been to Europe like 20 or 30 times. So like he knew everything very well. And he helped us plan out everything, make sure we're hitting the highlights, not forgetting anything, not forgetting hotels, because when you have 3 weeks there, or was it 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you're seeing a different city every night, like getting all the hotels booked and everything and itinerary is very difficult. Or can be very difficult. But what's cool is he had some connections there, and I think we paid $300 to have a guided tour the entire city of Rome.
That's awesome.
Guy rides in the taxi with us, takes us places. He has like tour badges, so he can like cut the lines at certain facilities. So like we didn't wait in line when we got to the Coliseum. He just says like, "Hey, I'm a guided tour," and we might have even gotten for free.
Yeah.
But like it was pretty cool. And so like having a travel agent can help with that
Mhm.
stuff. Um, but he tells you about the Coliseum, and it's just like hiring a tour guide for the
Yeah,
day.
those
So
tour
it was
guides,
awesome.
I definitely think the tour guide stuff is super worth it, especially if you like history, because that's the best way to learn it.
Yeah.
Is because they tell you something, they teach you so much, and that's something I've recently started to try to do on our trips. Is like, okay, let's actually get, because before I always like to have very free flow, like go with the flow, like nothing scheduled. The most recent one, I was like, maybe we should have some tours because I want to actually learn some of this history, especially
Mhm.
in Italy. Um, and those are definitely 100% worth it.
Yeah. His name was Mario. He was a Roman citizen, and he like showed us his ID. Like, here's my Roman citizen. Like,
That's
oh,
cool.
cool.
Mhm.
Um, so okay, so if you're to go to Greece again, what would you do different, or what would you stay the
Oh
same?
man.
What would you do different?
Okay. So this is, I think I would, so typical American to go into Greece for the first time, I would basically do the exact same what I did. So we flew into Athens, stayed in Athens. Athens is not as cool. I mean, it's very cool. It's extremely historic, but it's like a dirtier Rome to me. So it was a little bit just slightly sketchy, not horrible. It was cool to see some of the sites, but we only did a day and a half there, I think. And then we flew to Santorini. Santorini is like that picturesque white
The
build,
white Oasis
white dome
building
or
on
blue
the
dome buildings,
yeah.
and yeah,
Mhm.
on the side. Stayed on that side of the island for the first 3 or 4 days, and it's just beautiful. Like you just sit outside and feel the water breeze all day.
Mhm.
Like we went on hikes around the island. The island is pretty small, and we ate good food. Like just taking it slow. Nothing was scheduled. Um, got wine is incredibly cheap. We would do wine tours. You get like a bottle of wine. That's a bottle of wine. Actually, we try to get the same one every now and then. There's a white wine made on Santorini, and here you can get it for $25 a bottle. There you can get it for two.
It's cheaper than water.
Yeah, it really is actually. It really was. So that was, I mean, stuff like that was awesome. But what was really cool is we went to the other side of the island to end our trip. So the other side of the island is not popular. No one goes. It's like it's still pretty, but it's black sand beaches. It doesn't have the white dome. It's not on a hill like it's called Ia is the city that we stay. The pretty city is called Ia. Um, this when we went to the other side it was called Kamari. So Kamari is a beach, black sand beach. Not, I mean, it's really pretty. It's not incredible like the other side, but it was so nice. Like there was something so different about it because we would sit and have dinners for hours at these places, and all the waiters were so nice. We got free stuff at every place we went to because they just wanted us to be there, and we talked to people that lived there on that side of the island. It was way cheaper on that side of the island. It was like actually getting into the real Greek culture. And from that point on, that was when we said we're going to do these vacations where we stay in places for an extended amount of time. I mean, 3 days is not really that long, but it was not a place that's like a sightseeing, like hustle and bustle type of spot. It was like we're sitting here, we're just experiencing the culture, and that's how I wanted to always do vacations from then on. So for me, I would say do that if it's your first time to Greece. Now, if we were to do it again, I'd probably do it pretty similar, but I would want to go to some of the other smaller islands, the less popular islands, to get a similar vibe to like what we had on Kamari, but even more so. Like, I mean, Patmos is a place that's very popular. That's where uh, John wrote Revelation, so I think that would be really cool to go to. And then there's several other islands that are less populated that would be very interesting to go to. Like we actually used to follow this guy who makes a show called My Greek Odyssey, and he basically is going to every single island in Greece, and we loved that show. I think we've watched it like 3 times through until it got removed for U.S. citizens. I guess only Australians can view it now for some reason, like whatever streaming deals they have. Uh, but that was when we were inspired. We're gonna eventually go to the other smaller islands, and I think that's what we're planning on doing for 10th anniversary. Is what we promised ourselves. So a few more years or several more years. But yeah, that was the Greece side.
Okay. Yeah, I've never been to Greece. I mean, I can imagine like the picturesque um, Greek pictures and just like soaking it all in. when it came to Greece, didn't their economy collapse not too long before you went?
Yeah,
And
yeah, I
so I
think
don't know. Did that make it cheaper? Do you
I'm
know?
sure it did. It was a few years before we went. I guess we went in 2019, and I don't know when the economy collapsed, like 2015, 20 Greece economy collapse. But it was definitely a lot cheaper. And when we talked, I really actually I'm not a very that social person, but when we're overseas, I really try to talk to everyone. Like if we're in a taxi, try to get to know the taxi driver a little bit. Like, what do you do? How long have you been here? Or did you grow up here? Like, how long have you been a taxi driver? And like in Greece, it seemed like everyone had a different job before the crash, and then because of the crash, they lost their jobs, and now they're a taxi driver. I think that was the story that we heard over and over again. In fact, I don't know if there was a single taxi driver who didn't tell us that story.
Yeah, I really don't like being a taxi driver, but
Yeah. But yeah, I think that definitely made it a lot cheaper.
would you? I guess this is a little bit on the realm. Would you drive when you're in Europe? Would you recommend people drive?
Have I told you this before?
Maybe, but
Oh
I
my
don't know what you're
gosh.
referring to.
So on our Italy trip, I did drive
This most recent one.
the most recent one, and no, I would never recommend it. It's a nightmare. So I guess what we were doing is we went to Florence, and we were with our friends Matt and Hannah. Matt's been on the podcast several times,
And Hannah's been on
and
before as well.
oh yeah, that's true. I
The
forgot
power
about that.
couple that's been on the
Yeah,
Simply Technical
the
podcast.
only couple.
Yeah.
But we did we did Florence for a few days, and then we wanted to go out to the countryside in Tuscany, where we stayed for 3 more days. And because that's what I was saying, I wanted to get that like local experience, and that was the best way to do it. Well, it's hard to get out there without having a car, and taxi. I guess the taxi services we could have done, but if we didn't have a car, then we couldn't really drive around every day outside of the house if we wanted to go somewhere else or do a wine tour or something. We're kind of stuck because we're out in the middle of basically nowhere, Tuscany. And so got a car in Florence. Oh my gosh, the driving there was so hectic. I've never been so nervous in my life. Like I think I almost killed like 5 people on their little, not the
Bikes,
motorcycles, whatever those bikes are called, the
mopeds.
yeah. And because they don't have any signals. That like
They're
it
just
is
like hit me. Yeah.
yeah, they don't care. They don't care at all. It is so different than driving Oklahoma City. And it was so busy. And then on the way in, well, actually, I guess that's on the way back. But when you're going from Florence to the countryside, it is super, super windy. And you have people behind you, like tailgating you. And these roads are so narrow. A lot of times only one car can fit through one way. So like someone's coming the other way, you got to pull over to the side and let them through. Especially if you're the American driving, like, I'm not going to be the aggressive one in this situation, but Italians are behind you, like tailgating you. Sometimes they honk. So I'm going pretty fast, like winding around. Every single person in the car threw up. I had to pull over I had to pull over so many times, and they all threw up. So hopefully they don't get mad at me for telling that story. But
That's funny.
yeah, that I always said the next time I'm driving over there, or next time we do the Tuscany thing, I will be rich enough to afford a chauffeur. Because it just, I mean, it's such a tough decision because being out there was the best part of the trip, I think, or at least one of the best parts of the trip. And it was so stressful getting out there, though.
So on our trip, we drove, but we didn't drive. Our tour guide suggested, or not tour guide, travel agent suggested that we don't drive in Italy and we don't drive in France.
Okay. Yeah, don't drive in Italy.
And I know why, because when we rode in the taxi, like the only lines are when you pull up to like a stoplight or something.
Yeah.
Everywhere else, there's no line. There might be a center line between the two opposing lanes, but like when you go into a roundabout, it might be a 4-lane road, but you got 8 cars. Like,
yes.
And you're all driving in the circle, and they're all honking at each other, and they're all like slamming on each other's like on the brakes and like going around. It's nuts.
Yes.
But it's like I'm gonna drive where I can drive. If I fit, I'm going there. So we didn't drive. We just took a taxi when it was local. Which when you're out in the country, you know, taxi is going to be a lot more difficult to get or a lot more expensive. So we took taxi locally, and then we took trains to cities. So we started in Rome, went to I think it's Florence and then Venice. I'm not for sure which one we went first, but I'm pretty sure it was Florence and Venice. We got a tour guide actually in Florence as well. But we took a train to between the cities, and then took a train from Italy to Germany and picked up a car. And we were driving. The other places are not too bad.
Yeah.
Germany's not bad. It's just like the big cities, but there was some pretty windy roads. I'm trying to think of where it was. Might have been some of the smaller,
like in Germany, probably.
Maybe in Germany.
Yeah.
They were still two lane, but it was only really windy when you got into like the small towns. The small towns were pretty windy.
Yeah.
But I don't really remember people being behind us that much. I don't know if it was just the time of day that we were traveling or what, but I didn't mind us too much when we weren't in the cities, big cities.
Yeah.
So then we dropped our car off in Amsterdam and took a train from there. Experienced Amsterdam for a little bit. You know, of course, you got to walk through the red light district. Don't worry, guys, I didn't see anything. And then took a train to Paris, and then flew out of Paris after a couple days. So I would say, I would take the travel agent's advice. Don't try to drive in. Obviously, you can't really drive in Venice because it's all boats. But it's not worth it. You're gonna pull your hair out or get an accident.
Yeah, I looked up after I drove from Florence to our Agriturismo, which is what we stayed at in the Tuscan countryside. It's like so agriturismos are like, they're essentially like Airbnbs, but they are active farmhouses. So these people like are actively producing, like wine is generally what they're making, olive oil, usually everything they can over there. But like I got to the place, terrible experience on the way driving, as I already said. And I looked up immediately. I was like, worst drivers in the world, like just to see where the worst places. And Italy was up there with like India is really terrible to drive in. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the videos of like people driving in there. Like Italy was right there, and it apparently like Italian drivers are just insanely aggressive as well, which I learned but didn't realize beforehand. It was just terrible driving experience.
Yeah. You're gonna, like I said, you're gonna get either pull your hair out or get in an accident or driving in. I don't think Paris was all that bad comparative to Italy, but it wasn't good. It wasn't great.
Yeah.
Oh, you can walk to a lot of the places there too. Like the Eiffel Tower is not too far from the Arch of Triomphe, and at least I don't remember being all that far, because I don't think we took a taxi at all in Paris. We just walked everywhere.
Oh, well. Yeah. That's the nice part about most cities in Europe. So one more thing before I stop on the driving. When I did pick up the rental car, and the guy was like, "Oh, do you want to buy the insurance?" Like the normal, the rental car.
Try to upsell stuff,
yeah. And I was like, "No." And he said, "You American?" I was like, "Yes." And he said, "You're from New York City?" And I was like, "No." He said, "Please just get the insurance."
Trust me.
I think I ended up getting like the lowest one, but gosh, if I was to go back, I would buy the max.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next destination spot. So I wrote down Yellowstone, and you said you never been to Yellowstone, right?
Nope.
So I've been 3 times. I went once when I was a really young kid, and then I went twice in high school. And the first one, I think we were there for a week, and I think we were in actual Yellowstone because like we pulled our trailer from Oklahoma City all the way up to, we went into Jackson Hole, which is, I feel like, pretty iconic. They have like antler.
Oh yeah.
Archways to like go to their park, and it's like a pretty chill, relaxing place. So we pulled our trailer up there, camped in Yellowstone. If you consider trailer camping, some people don't. If you're not tent camping, you're not really camping. So did that, but it's really cool to see just nature, like this just beautiful countryside, or I guess I just wouldn't say countryside, like just the wild.
Yeah.
And driving through, and now it is a little tainted because you see a bunch of cars there, so like it's not. But I mean, there's just vast open fields with just buffalo. They're walking between your cars. You'll see some other varmint there. In the when we went in the winter, we saw some. I think it was some wolves walked between our snowmobiles. Which is like really cool. You could see the geysers. Now it does kind of stink, some like actual stink, like smell, because you just smell like sulfur and yeah. But it's also amazing. Some funny stories from like park rangers talking to park rangers is people don't realize that the animals there are like wild. Like they expect it to be a zoo, like a petting zoo. And so they go there and they're like, "Hey, park ranger, I didn't get a good picture of the moose or the bear. Can I say moose? We didn't see any moose in Yellowstone, but bison. Like, get the bison to come back over here. Like, I didn't get a good picture." And they're like, "Get it to come back. What do you mean?" What? Like, I need a good picture. Like, I didn't see it very good. And they're like, "It's a wild animal. Like, this is not like, yeah, it's domesticated a little bit because it's around people, but like, it's there." It's wild still. That's and so amazing. Like they also said that people will put their kids on bison and take pictures.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah. So it's a little crazy. People don't realize.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds common sense, but I guess if you're not really exposed that much to life, I don't know the right term, but if you,
we're a country that has no common sense.
Yeah, I guess. So yeah, there's some other cool. Like I said, Jackson Hole's pretty cool. I think we went on a elk. If you go out really early in the morning in Yellowstone, you see a bunch of elk. But they have like an elk refuge. So I've been yawning a lot. There's an elk refuge, and they feed these elk because there's too many elk. It's kind of like if you ask me, let them die, but there's too many elk. And so because there's too many elk and their food goes down, well, guess what? This refuge feeds them. So like
they don't let natural selection
happen. There's not like all the elk survive. I say all. A lot of them survive because you're feeding them, so they have abundance of food. But it does lead to like you get a cool tour where you get in I think it's a sleigh, and you have horses pull you, and you're just like getting pulled around this field, and there's just elk everywhere. Like you can reach out and touch, and not supposed to, but you can reach out and touch them. They're that close. So, but also they do because there's too many elk. Like they can't afford all the food, I guess sometimes, and so every once in a while they'll have a elk hunt.
Really?
So you go out to this elk hunt, and it's not really hunting because they're so domesticated. Like you could just walk up to them. So you just walk up to them and shoot them, and you have your elk hunt. It's kind of gruesome, but and yeah. So Jackson Hole's pretty cool. There's like that kind of stuff to experience. They have some other like zoo stuff around. I think it might be Cody, Wyoming. I think there's a zoo, and a lot of the animals you'd see in Yellowstone are just in this zoo. Like a bunch of bears, bear cubs. I think they have some moose there. It's not even like you could be there for a couple hours and you could see everything very easily. But it's just cool to experience like this nature, mainly uninterrupted by humans.
Yeah.
You know, there might be some walking decks and stuff. Seeing these animals. And just because like I say, Yellowstone, that also includes like the surrounding areas. There's like the Tetons just south of Yellowstone that has like some beautiful mountains, and it's its own national park as well. And I think that's where we saw moose. We saw the moosin there in the Tetons, getting off the road and walking to like a river, and there's a bunch of moose.
That's cool.
There.
Yeah, you can see. I've never done those definitely want to eventually. I guess the closest thing I've done to the nature side for vacation is Estes Park / Rocky Mountain National Park, which are, I mean, Estes Park is like the city town right outside Rocky Mountain National Park, and you definitely see uh, quite a bit of moose out there, which is awesome.
Wes's Park is absolutely stunning.
It is. I love it. I definitely I really want to do this weird vacation where I just go out there for like a week and a half and don't do anything except just chill in the cabin, read, drink coffee, and sit outside on the porch.
Um, yeah. So Caleb, if you remember Caleb from college, his wedding was in Estes Park, and I'd never been before. But I mean, just absolutely stunning scenery. And I only was there for a couple hours.
Yeah.
It was unbelievably beautiful, and they have obviously great wedding photos.
Oh yeah, sure.
And Yellowstone, you could probably, if you're booking it, you could do it in 2 days. You could. They have 2 different loops, so they have a road that goes across the middle, and then they have a southern loop and a northern loop. And if you like didn't dilly dally, you could spend 2 days there and get all of it.
Yeah.
Now, if you're really looking for specific animals, or like just kind of take your time, 3 or 4 days would be fine. But Yellowstone also books up super quick, so you got to like book pretty far in advance.
Oh,
And they have
really?
cabins there, or you can be outside and travel in. I'm sure the cabins in Yellowstone are very expensive.
Oh, I'm sure.
But yeah, we picnicked out there, like drove our truck in there and pulled down the tailgate and ate some lunch and looked off at one of the fields. So it was really cool. It's a pretty cool experience. And then in that winter, the winter after, we went back. My parents and I went back, and we snowmobiled through the park, which also
that's
books
awesome.
up very fast
Yeah.
because they only allow so many people in at once, and you have to be on a guided tour. You can't just free roam. But they have so we went snowmobiling, which is like a little bit more freedom. Of course, you're riding your snowmobile, and can be difficult if you're elderly. But since we're talking about under 30, shouldn't have to worry too much. And like you get like a suit, like a winter suit, and like a sock cap and stuff, so you can get all the gear. And it's pretty cool, just like riding through Yellowstone National Park on a snowmobile.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
You don't see as many animals because it's usually pretty cold, and so a lot of them are hunkered up. But like I said, saw some foxes. They do have like coaches that you can sit in, and it's like I don't want to say single cab. Sorry, I'm yawning so much. Like single room, I guess. It's like a driver and a passenger, I think, and then like 8 or so seats in the back.
Yeah.
Got tank treads on it, and like goes through. And it's kind of similar if you're not comfortable riding your own snowmobile, but you can put 2 people on a snowmobile if you don't, if you don't want to ride one yourself. So it's pretty cool, and I think we did that 2 or 3 days.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome.
But the city that we stayed in, I think, is West Yellowstone. I think there was like 1 restaurant open in the entire city and 1 hotel.
Oh wow!
Just because like everybody moves away, and you have any more thoughts on that? Like, do you have any questions about Yellowstone? Maybe that
no,
somebody.
I don't think so. I definitely.
It's pretty self-explanatory.
I want to do, yeah.
So the next point would be a cruise, and my experience on a cruise, I've only been on 1, but I'd really like to go on some more. I've been trying to plan some with some friends, but just never really pulled the trigger on it. I went to an Alaskan cruise, which was a bunch of fun back in high school. And you've been on a couple cruises, right?
Yeah, I've been on a cruise. You probably had much cooler cruise experience being on the Alaskan cruise. I've been on Carnival cruises, or 2 Carnival cruises and 1 Disney cruise. I think I honestly cannot remember. All of these would have been in high school. And I cannot remember if we actually went on a very short. I think we did a 3-day Disney cruise. But
I think ours was a week. I think ours was 5 days.
Yeah, I think the Carnival cruises are the ones I remember better, just because they were definitely a week or 5 days long rather than 3 days.
Do you remember? last time I was looking, it's like what is like $150 a day, maybe $125 a day
It's pretty dang cheap
for a
for
cruise.
Carnival.
Yeah. And you could get, I mean, if you go Carnival and you gamble a lot, you could get really good deals. I think my coworker was getting like $60 or $70 day cruises.
Yeah,
But also, like, if you go on those and gamble a bunch,
you're gambling.
it's more expensive. But we were talking beforehand that there's like just each cruise line has its own demographic, I guess you would say, and old culture, its own culture. So mine was out of Seattle. So what was really cool about the trip was we went up to Seattle. We stayed for 3 days, I think, and then took the cruise up the coast. Went into Canada for one of the days. I think it's went to like some type of garden. I don't remember what it's called. And they had like a light show and like fireworks and stuff. It was really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
That's the only time I've been into Canada, but it was a good experience. And they set it up so easy for you. Like cruises can be, you know, we talked about the two different. Okay, well, if you're in Europe, you can go like fast paced and you can hit, 100 cities in 100 days, or you can take your time and hit 2 cities for 10 days.
Yeah.
So cruises are set up so nice that you can choose that as well. Like, okay, obviously you can't choose how fast the cruise goes, but you can extend your stay. Like, okay, well, my first one I want a 5-day, and the next one, oh, that wasn't long enough. I want a 7-day. And they have, I think they might even have longer, but that might be more difficult to book. And they have 3-day.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I'd recommend a 3-day just because it's so you can't experience it.
Yeah. I mean, some cruises will do like year-round cruise. Like you hop on, hop off. Like some people stay for a whole year. Oh, of course, those trend very old, like retired people, extremely rich people. But yeah, it seems like every cruise line tends to have their own culture. Like Carnival's kind of the party culture in general.
If you're doing a Carnival, you might not really care that much about the cruise. It's more of like I'm away from everybody. It'd be like you want to go to Vegas, like, but on a boat. Yeah. So I don't know. That's not my scene, but that might appeal to some people. Of like, I want to gamble and I want to get a drinking pass, and I don't really care about excursions, and I don't really even care about getting off the boat. Like,
which you can definitely get off the boat in Carnival.
Yeah,
and do excursions, but I don't think it's ever been the
highlight
top for people.
Which I went on Norwegian, which some people say are bad, but I don't know. It's only a cruise I've been on, and it was a good experience.
I mean, I've heard great things about Norwegian. Maybe we're just old people now.
Yeah. Maybe they're like, oh, you got to go on Carnival. Yeah. But they had like really cool excursions going in Alaska, like ziplining through Alaska, going to some of the towns, which I will note the cruise line does basically own the towns, like the towns. So like, oh, I'm going to not buy this on the cruise ship. I'm going to buy it on here. It's probably cheaper on land. Well, the shop that you bought it at is owned by the cruise lines.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we went, several different cities and got into Canada, which is cool. And you don't have to pay. Most are all inclusive. So you pay the $150 or whatever. That includes your meals, your room. You can pay extra if you want to have like, hey, I want to go to the steakhouse that's on board, and it's it's an additional $10 a person. But usually they have like, at least on Norwegian, they had like several different restaurants of different types of food that you could go to for free. And then they also had a buffet. They had 3 buffet lines or 3 buffet cafes or whatever. And they all had like, they overlapped so that you always had access to food. So being fat, that was awesome.
I mean, that was the big part I loved about the cruise was unlimited food. The food was just my favorite part.
I wouldn't say it was like top 10 food I've ever had, but it was so good. There was a bunch of. I mean, I would say it was better in like Golden Corral. Like it wasn't.
Yeah, no, it's cheap. It's cheap food, but it's a lot of fun, especially when you're in high school. I didn't go when I was in middle school, but I can imagine if I was in middle school, or I mean, unlimited ice cream, like
just plowing ice cream.
Yeah.
Don't tempt me. But yeah, it was. I mean, this is cool, and like I said, you can. If you wanted to go spend all day in the hot tub or in the pool on the cruise line, which apparently now all the cruise lines are just absolutely massive. You should, if you're at home when you're listening, Google Titanic versus normal cruise ship. It's crazy. It's like 10 or 15 times like than the Titanic now.
Yeah, they're huge.
Because when I think Titanic, I think, oh, it's a massive ship, and then it's like, nope, not very big compared to what we have now.
You know, the theory about the best way to start a new country now is to just buy several cruise ships and put them out in the middle of the ocean and just seastead. Have your own little colony, make your own laws.
Wait, what? Just like
You
have a
never,
cruise by. Wait, go ahead.
you never heard of seasteading? Basically, it's just like there's no laws really in international waters. And it's
Maritime
really,
law or whatever.
yeah, and it's not like nowadays you can just go start a new country the way before you just conquer people and start a new country. Now the only real way is either go out in space, or to start a country in the middle of the water. And the best way to do that is to get a bunch of cruise ships together and start a country.
You have to strand them there. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know about it. I've just heard
Okay.
it's a fun theory.
Oh. I was thinking like, okay, well, just agree with the cruise lines and have people come by your city or on your town or whatever that you started.
Yeah.
And then you get rich that way. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, cruises are just so flexible. It doesn't matter what you want to do. You can do it on a cruise. They have shows on the cruise. They have movies. Like there's a lot of comedians. Like if you're seen as the drinking and partying scene, they have that for you. If you want to relax, like you're on a beach, maybe not doing an Alaskan cruise, but we had really good weather. It was only cold when we went to Glacier Bay, which there's a bunch of glaciers there. So no wonder it was cold. No surprise. Yeah. But there's also like Caribbean cruises and Mexico cruises. You could do a Hawaii cruise.
I've heard that one's amazing.
You get to see all the islands. But I would recommend like a 5-day cruise, and that's not too bad. Because if you think of a vacation, you got to pay for a hotel, you got to pay for food, you got to pay for transportation while you're there. Because like if cruise, you obviously got to fly to a city and that you're launching from. So like if you ignore the stuff that's common between going on vacation and taking a cruise or a typical vacation, but you got to pay for hotels when you're there. You got to pay or an Airbnb. You got to pay for food. Got to pay for a rental car. Like all these things add up. And hey, well, if I go on a cruise, like $150 a day, like that easily adds up and easily takes over the all those things I just listed of hotel, like stay, food, and so.
Just fair warning: if you do go on a cruise, make sure you fly to the takeoff destination at least a full 24 hours before. Because one time my parents were flying in the night before the cruise takes off in the morning, and their flight got canceled, and they missed a cruise.
And cruises are not something you can just get refunds on.
No, there was no refund for that.
You might want to pay for protection or something like on flights.
Yeah,
you have protection, but most people are like, well, I'll be there at the cruise. Like I plan on going.
Yep.
Next would be like from my side, I say big city. And by big city, I mean like going to Seattle, going to New York, going to LA. Have you been to those cities before, Keaton?
I haven't been to New York. I haven't actually been to. What's crazy is I've been to more European cities than U.S. cities. So the big cities in Europe, like London, I've been to. Already talked about Rome and Florence, and Vienna's pretty big. Why can't I remember the German city? But Berlin. But I have been to LA. Didn't love LA that much.
I think it's cool to visit, but it's not.
Yes. I think that, I mean, they're all different and fun to visit. Like I did just get back from Boston this last week. That was the first time I've been to Boston. And it was kind of, I was shocked at how much I loved it. Like it was kind of incredible. It's so cool to be going from, I mean, I love Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is my favorite place to be right now. But it's not a New York or Boston, obviously. It was crazy to see the high rises and like sit in the middle. Like there's just so much to do. Like we went to go get drinks at this similar place to Blue Garden or City Garden. I don't know if Oklahoma City people are familiar with that place. It's like outdoor sort of.
There's an outdoor venue that you can have different bars. I guess there's only one bar there, but
yeah. So they essentially had one of those in the middle of Seaport in Boston, and I went to it because it was right next to our hotel, and it's just crazy. Like you're surrounded on all four sides by massive
Massive buildings.
skyscrapers.
Yeah.
It's like this is so cool. And I was like walking around the city, like I see high rises being built, and it shows like this is going to be 550,000 square feet, and it's just what they're planning on doing with it. And I saw several of these huge places being built. All of them were going to be lab space, research lab space. It was like my heaven. It was like, like that's where biology is really happening is in Boston. So yes, the big city thing has grown on me a lot in the last week.
Did you go to Boston for work or for vacation?
It was for a conference, and
Okay.
then for the conference was 3 days, and then Lydia flew down and joined me for 4 more days. So we turned it
Okay.
into a vacation at the end, and we did all
Yeah.
the typical, history.
Did you go
of
visit
Boston
the
history.
cop that broke his wrist or whatever?
I
Going down the
did.
slide?
I went to the slide.
Okay, you went to the slide. I didn't actually see the cop though.
Didn't see the cop. No,
You
went to
saw
the
his white
slide.
outline on the ground where he broke his wrist.
Yes. Went to the
For
slide.
reference, some cop rode this huge slide in Boston and broke his wrist, and his workers comp.
The video is so funny. The video is so funny.
He's flying down the freaking slide, going like 10 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour.
No one knows how he did it because when I went there, little kids are just sliding down and they're going so slow.
Dude just jumped down there with a jetpack.
Also, it clearly says on the slide, it says for ages 2 through 12.
He was just trying to prove something, but it's crazy that he gets workers' comp now. So I didn't really care for LA that much. I mean, there's some cool things to do there. Like a bunch of iconic sites, of course, like Hollywood.
Yes.
Going
LA
hiking
is
up to see the sign. Go ahead.
Yeah, LA is definitely worth like going to. It's very cool. Like you said, the Hollywood and just going around Hollywood. The big thing I don't like about big cities is I don't ever really feel safe. And LA was one of those that like I wouldn't want to be out at night.
Don't ever go to Oakland
unless I
or
was in
San
Beverly
Francisco.
Hills. Yeah, yes, it is definitely better than going there. But Boston, I felt very safe, which I never really felt in big cities at night.
What else is there to do in LA? I mean, there's just a laundry list of things.
Disneyland.
Beverly Hills, if you wanted to do like a Beverly Hills tour. You say Disney?
Disneyland.
There's
Yeah.
Disneyland, beaches,
all those piers.
Universal Studios is another one, which is another cool. It's not like theme parky. I mean, it's still a theme park, but it's not like ride oriented that much. It's more about like movies. Like it's actually, I don't know if you've ever heard or been to it or seen it, but it's pretty cool.
Lakers.
Yeah, if you wanted to go see sports, like mecca of sports. But like New York, I went to New York in high school. I think I was in middle school. Like, of course, you got to get a New York slice at Sabario, just like in The Office. Times Square, go see a play. Just like really cool things that you need to experience. Like, you need to get out of your shell and go see these things.
Yeah.
You gotta go see Wicked. I don't know if Wicked's even still playing, but it was a huge deal to go see. I guess Hamilton is another big thing, right?
Go see a Broadway show in New York. Sounds like
go see a Broadway show. I think we took a tour of like all the different like the boroughs and stuff. Like, oh, okay, here's the bridge, and this is Manhattan, and this is Brooklyn. Like going to see that and kind of the dividing things and just seeing historical things in those cities. Of course, they have great food. Empire State Building, right? And then Seattle. I really enjoyed Seattle. It's a little bit more laid back than those other two that we mentioned, than LA and New York. We only spent a couple of days there, but like going to see, like I'm pretty sure they have a Starbucks museum there. Going to the pier, going through Pikes. Is it called Pikes?
Pikes Peak.
No, Pikes farmers market kind of thing.
No.
Fish market. I think fish market. Pikes Fish Market. But it's just cool. Like they're just cool places. I didn't spend a ton of time there. They have amazing food in Seattle. From where I work, a bunch of people are from Seattle, and all they talk about is the food all they talk about is how good the food is in Seattle, and the coffee, of course.
Do they ever mention that Oklahoma City ranked higher in the food cities than
In
Seattle?
Seattle, no, they don't mention that. But I did have a discussion with my coworker about that, or my lead.
Really?
He's like, yeah, there's no good food here, and I was like,
Just
well, you
gotta
ranked
find
top. Is it top 100 or top 50?
top 100.
Top 100. We like Oklahoma City ranked top 100 in the, and I showed him the list, and he's like, what? That's
Eh.
crazy. But also, like, I don't know. He does not know how to go eat here. He was talking about, oh, I went to this little Mexican restaurant, and they didn't even, like. I was really excited because they give you chips and salsa and stuff, and it's unlimited. And I'm like, that's pretty standard. And he's like,
Yeah,
no, it's
that's
not. And I
normal.
was like, that's very
Yeah.
standard. You need to go. I was like, go to Ted's. Like, go to
Yeah.
Ted's. It's very good. But anyway, were you about to say something?
No, I think a lot of people, the big difference is like in those really big cities that have really good food, is like there's really good food walkable within each other. In Oklahoma City, I mean, yeah, there's areas like the Plaza where there's several good restaurants right by each other, but it's a little bit more difficult to, just stumble upon multiple restaurants if you're staying downtown, like just walking and happenstance, find different amazing restaurants. But with that said, Oklahoma City has incredible food, and I will debate anyone on this anytime.
Well, the big thing that they always knock on Oklahoma City is what is Oklahoma City known for? What's the food they're known for? And some people argue barbecue is pretty good. Like, it's not barbecue mecca like Memphis,
Yeah,
but
no.
some people said fried chicken.
It's not known for any. To me, it's not known for any type
I would
of
say burgers,
one
but
kind of
also that's
food.
not a very good thing to be known for, I guess,
Yeah,
because burgers
yeah,
are not necessarily gourmet. But I
yeah.
mean, we have so many like Tucker's, Nick's,
That one
several onion
restaurant,
burger places
one
in El Reno. Go ahead. Which one?
yeah, that one restaurant won best burger in the country.
Was it Nick's?
Not Nick's. It was an unexpected one, and I cannot remember what it was. It was not like it was a bar, or it won the best bar burger in the U.S.
Okay.
And I don't.
I know Nick's is the like super popular, but you got to go there like two, or they close at 2, or at least the one of them does. Tucker's onion burgers is pretty good. I don't know if you've had that, but
Yeah.
like they're just good. I mean, we have good burgers, but I think we just have a lot of individual restaurants that just have high quality stuff.
Yes.
It's not like one really particularly stands out. I mean, like I said,
Mhm.
Tex-Mex, Ted's is pretty good. It's not. I'm probably gonna get hate for this, but I don't view Mexican food as really all that gourmet. But like Trace Tequilas in Edmond, they have some really good freaking fajita enchiladas. So, like, I don't know. I could talk about this all day. You can see the
Yeah.
size of me if you're watching on YouTube, so you know that my opinion's valid. But to round out our list, I said San Diego. I don't know if you have another pick. San Diego is kind of like, it's a big city, but I would say it kind of stands alone because it's a lot different than those other three cities that I mentioned for big ones.
Yeah.
Just because of like the animals and stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I've been to San Diego. I thought it was awesome. When I say I've been to San Diego, I barely went to San Diego. I did was with the family, did a day at the zoo, the famous zoo. So
yeah, they have the San Diego Zoo's super famous. Is it all outdoors? Like you can ride like a train around.
Yeah,
outside?
you. It's so big that most of the time I think you need to get on hop on a thing to drive you around.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I've been, but I know they have fantastic beaches. Like I would say some people might even argue the beaches there are better than LA.
I would say probably.
Probably so, and they're probably not as crowded as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think San Diego has a famous pier. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, if I'm thinking of the right place. But then they have like what SeaWorld. SeaWorld's still a thing. Whether you agree with animal cruelty or not, or whatever.
Whether you agree with it.
That's not the right way to put it. I'm digging myself into a hole here. If you agree with the zoos or not, I mean, some people like obviously hate zoos, and I think SeaWorld sticks out as like one of the worst ones as far as like hurting animals. So,
Yeah.
but SeaWorld is cool to go look at. You don't support their, at least with the killer whales, that's the biggest like thing they're known for.
Well, they're getting revenge on this throughout the world right now. Have you seen those stories about the killer whales?
Aren't they attacking boats and
sailboats?
stuff?
Yeah. they like team up and have taught each other how to sink sailboats or something.
Do they get food out of it? Like, do they
No,
eat those
it
people?
seems
They
like a
just
play. It seems like they're playing or something.
uh,
But we've turned it into a funny like it's a war. They're getting their revenge for SeaWorld.
yeah. Shimu is out there and told them what they're doing in the at SeaWorld. Well, I mean, killer whales just like they'll they'll use their tail and like fling things in the air
Yeah.
as like high as they can and kill these seals or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're apex predator for sure, but like they just are bored, so they just play with their food, I guess,
Yeah.
like a toddler. But yeah, San Diego, super cool. It can be pretty relaxing because like a beach, beach week, I guess you could say, and go to the beach and hang out for a week, and then go to the zoo or SeaWorld. Maybe you don't want to go to SeaWorld because they're monsters, but I've been before. Don't cancel me. Do you have any cities that we missed or like some dark horse picks? Maybe.
Okay, so I did really like San Diego. I need to experience the full thing. But now my new pick as of this week, I'd put Boston right there. I
Boston?
thought it was awesome. I mean, that's our oldest history in the US, basically. So you get to see that. You get to see the high rises. My love, you get to see the mecca of biology. You get to go to Cambridge to see Harvard and MIT and all the stuff they're doing out there. So that's my new pick. Also, the food was great. The lobster rolls, fantastic. The only downside is it is ridiculously expensive. I mean, it was like you can't spend less than $20 on a meal, basically, which is just crazy.
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which here in Oklahoma, it's inflation's gone kind of crazy, and if you spend $13, $14 on a meal is like, thank goodness.
Yes. Yeah. No. Lydia and I's like birthday spot is Frida Southwest. Great food. All those plates are like $25 to $30. $25 to $40 a plate, usually in the $30 range. Well, that's like our once a year, like, oh, we're gonna splurge. We're gonna splurge on this place. And then we go to Boston. It's like, all right, you want some chicken nuggets?
Okay, $35, please.
So that's
we
the
put
only
them
downside.
In the air fryer for you.
That's the only downside. You can find cheap places, but it's very expensive.
Well, okay, so I guess this is probably not a hot take, but like, why would you go on vacation, go to experience a new culture, a new place, new food, and then you go to McDonald's?
Oh, it drives me crazy. That's
like, why would you? Like, I could understand if it's midnight. Like, my flight just got in and I'm hungry. I didn't eat anything on the flight because it was $45.
Yep.
And you get in and it's late. Okay, yeah, you can, McDonald's or another late night fast food place that you can get anywhere. And it's okay to get fast food as long as it's not a chain that's accessible to you, like In-N-Out. Like, you go to Dallas, you go to California, okay, it's fast food, it's In-N-Out, that's fine. Or like southeastern United States, I think it's called Crystals, or Bojangles. It's like their Popeyes.
Yeah.
Crystals is like White Castle for southeastern United States. It's like, okay, getting fast food is okay, but you got to get something that you can't experience elsewhere. Like, what's the point of going on vacation if you're just going to experience the same thing or sit in the hotel? You got to experience things.
Yeah, that's also my hot take. I will join you in that. I could not stand when we were in Vienna and people were going to Starbucks. Vienna, the like coffee capital of the world, the place where coffee houses catalyzed 2 world wars, and you're gonna go to Starbucks? Come on. So I'm with you on that.
I will say, when we were in Europe, we went to a bunch of Hard Rocks, and that's probably bad. But like, when we get to cities, it'd be late, and so it kind of goes along with it was late. A lot of places close, like authentic places.
Yeah.
So like, it's not like every meal we went there, but when we get to a city late, we probably ate at 4 Hard Rocks, which is probably too many. We ate at like 4 Hard Rocks in 3 weeks. So, I might be eating my own words with that, but we kind of had an excuse. I mean, we did experience McDonald's and Burger King there as well, and they were different. So like now I'm backtracking on my hot take a little bit. It might seem like that, but I'm not.
No,
McDonald's in Europe is
indefensible.
a little bit indefensible. I don't know about that, but did you experience McDonald's in Europe?
No, I mean I do know it's a lot different, but
Yeah.
but
It's I mean it's basically the same thing, but it is a lot. They have different things. One of the cool things, I think we were Burger King. They for a regular meal, we got some type of like cups or something. And so like we have these Coca-Cola cups or glasses, plastic glasses that are like limited time only. So that was kind of cool. While we were, I think it was Burger King. Then we ate at one McDonald's, one Burger King, a bunch of Hard Rocks. Yeah, I think Amsterdam is where we ate at Burger King. I think no, that was when we ate at McDonald's. Right next to the red light district. It was really nice. Great views. I'm kidding, guys. I'm kidding. But if you don't have anything else, this has been Simply Technical. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya. Cool.